This is part of a series of videos that will teach you how to get an introduction to design and do a variety of different things in Photoshop and Photopea. Our first goal for this assignment is to find an image of a food, and this can be any food. In the past, I have taught it just using fruit. So if you aren't sure where to start, fruit is a great place to begin. But if you can think of a food, then go ahead and search for one. I'm going to do maybe a bowl of ice cream. And I'm going to search for this in Google Images. So we're going to go to Images. And here are lots of photos. Now, the next thing I want to do is I want to find bowls of ice cream that are large. So I'm going to click on Settings here and then Advanced Search. And then underneath Advanced Search, I can find size, I can find aspect ratio, types of images, whether or not you want them color, black and white, transparent. I'm going to click on Size, and I'm going to select the one that says larger than 1024 by 768. You could even do 800 by 600, but I wouldn't recommend going smaller than that just to maintain the quality of the image. And we're going to click on search here, and now all of these images are images that will work for that size. So I'm going to keep it fairly simple, I think. I think I'll go with maybe something like this. Now, traditionally, graphic designers do not you wouldn't just find any image you want on Google Images. So right now we're just doing some practice. This is not something that we would sell. We'll talk more about copywriting later on, but just be aware of that eventually you'll have assignments where you're not allowed to use any Google Images whatsoever. So I'm going to right click and just do Save Image As. I'm going to save it to a place that I'll remember. Click Save. And now I also need to find a face. And I was thinking maybe just putting a face on one scoop of ice cream here. So I kind of like the idea of doing an angry face because I think it's kind of funny, especially with food. So I'm going to type in angry face. And it's still searching for larger than 1024 by 768. What I want you to do is use as fairly realistic a face as you can. So I would avoid emojis. You don't want to do emojis. That's going to kind of defeat the purpose. Here's one here. It's got some copyright stuff on it. Again, I don't, I personally usually do not, maybe this one, do not recommend doing this for anything that you're selling because you can get in big trouble. I'm going to do this one for the ice cream. So I'm going to right click on this, save image as. So I'm saving both of these to a place that I'll remember. If you're using a Chromebook, then you're just saving it to your drive. Perfect. Now I need to go to Photopea or Photoshop. And in Photoshop, you'll open them separately. In Photopea, we can place, but I'll show you how to do that in Photopea. Hopefully it starts working here. There we go. All right, so I'm going to do Open from Computer. And I'm going to find my food first. So here's my food. That's my ice cream. And then, so I'll show you the Photoshop method. And then I'm going to do File, Open. Again, and I'm going to open up my face. And sometimes when students do this, they get really worried. They're like, oh no, where's my ice cream photo? But all it does is create a new tab. So it's just like if you were in Google Chrome, it's just opening them up separately. The trick is knowing what to do to combine them. So I want this kind of smirky, upset face on my vanilla slice of, or, not slice of vanilla, scoop of vanilla. And I'm going to use either the lasso, or I could also use the quick selection tool for this. I think what I'll do, I might just use the lasso tool for now. So I'm going to click on the lasso tool here. And this is going to allow me to just kind of draw roughly around my face. Because I don't want his shoulders, I just want his actual head. All right, so I clicked and dragged around. It's giving me the dancing ants. Now I can either do Edit, Copy, or Control C on the keyboard. So I'm going to do Control C, it's copying. I'm going to click back over to my ice cream image and do Control V. All right, now at this point, it's really big and you're going to have some size issues with this. So what you need to do to change the size is either Edit, Free Transform, or Control T or Control Alt T, depending on which device that you're using. So I'm going to do Control T. Whoops. Yep, that opens up a new tab. Control Alt T. I think it's Chromebooks that have to do Control T, but I could be wrong. And I want to drag this down. And this actually fits pretty good because the top of the cone can kind of be his hair. Something like this, maybe. I'm trying to get it to fit into the scoop of ice cream. When I'm happy with it, I'm going to hit enter on the keyboard. It might look a little pixelated at first, but once you hit enter, it typically will kind of resolve itself. Now, obviously at this point, it doesn't look like I've done all that much. It looks like I've just cut out a face and stuck it on ice cream. That is not the purpose of this assignment. It's great that you can use selection tools and copy paste, but yeah, you want to make sure that you are blending these. So I'm actually going to use the magnifying glass down here, and it's set to the plus sign. This is the same in Photoshop. So I'm going to click on this a couple times so I can zoom in. I want to be able to see my face a little better. Now, one tool that I haven't talked a whole lot about is called the Magic Eraser. So we're going to use this one because I have some extra background that I'd like to get rid of. So I'm going to right click on the eraser tool. Or I'm sorry, that's in Photoshop. In Photopea, we're going to use the magic wand. So right click on the object selection, magic wand. And then what I can do is I'm going to click on this gray background, click on that. You can define the tolerance. So if it's selecting more than you want it to select, you can lower that number down or increase that number and kind of see what happens. I don't have anything set to feathering or anything like that. It's just basic. And I'm going to press delete on my keyboard. Oops. Make sure that that's selected. Oops. There we go. Delete. All right. Awesome. Make sure you're on the right layer. So it should be a new layer, the face. I'll do the same over here and then delete. Okay, to get out of that selection, I can go to select, deselect, or Control D. And then I could also take that eraser. I'm just going to use the basic eraser and just kind of touch up some areas. Excuse my squinting face. Because there's a few areas that I just kind of want to touch up and make a little more natural. Perfect. Okay, so now from here, I need to look at the actual image, what kind of colors I'm seeing, and then any blending options and adjustments that I can do. So the vanilla ice cream is obviously kind of on the yellow side. So I'm actually going to do a little adjusting on that. So I'm going to go to Image, Adjustments, and then I'm going to go to Hue and Saturation. And I just want to make him a little more closer to the color of the ice cream. And I'm thinking that's probably the best. So let's just a little bit here. Yeah, I don't want them to be too green. I can increase the saturation. That's not too bad. And you can also play around with that lightness and darkness. So I'm going to keep it pretty similar. Click OK. There's a little bit of a shadow down here. So I'll show you what you can do with that if you're trying to make it blend in with a shadow. First things first, though, I am going to play around with these blending options. So I'm going to go to normal, and we're going to find one that hopefully will blend in well with the ice cream. And these will vary. You want it to be fairly obvious. And if none of these work for you, you can do this in other ways. Let's try overlay is a little too light, I think. And I might not be able to find one that works too well with this. Multiply seemed probably the most accurate. But it looks like it's got kind of a little too high contrast. So I'm going to see if adjusting that contrast will... maybe not so much. Maybe I'll do the brightness. You know, that's not too bad. Okay, I'm going to zoom out. Let's see what we're looking at here. So that I use that blending option. It's looking better. I think what I want to do is actually erase away the ear, the chin, and everything. I just kind of want the face because that's the main assignment, is just the face. So at this point, I'm going to use the eraser again. I'm going to go up here and select a soft eraser, and I'm going to make it big. So I'm going to make it big, not too big. That's probably good enough. A big eraser, and I'm going to lower the hardness to 0%, and that's going to let me get a really nice, soft, blendable edge. So it's going to look more like I blended it together with that ice cream image. Now over here, I'm going to have to make the brush a little smaller so I don't erase away his face. So I just kind of got rid of that harsh line. Now it's kind of on the small side, so I'm going to adjust the size again. So I'm going to do Control T. Oh, again, Control Alt T if you're on a PC. I was playing around with that Chromebook the other day. I can see a little bit that hasn't been erased yet, so I know I'll need to erase that. Enter. So there's a little bit at the top here that wasn't erased, so I will just make sure to erase that. All right, now I'm going to zoom out and let's see what it looks like. Not bad. Okay, that's kind of what we're going for. Now again, if none of these work, you could just go back to normal here and then play around with, there's also the opacity here if you want to just kind of drop that down. I actually think that might be even easier for what I'm doing here. I'm going to just change the colors a little bit because he still looks a little too green to me. So I'm going to go to hue saturation and I just want him, yeah, perfect. There we go. We're matching the colors. Click OK. The opacity is down just a little bit. This is actually great. I think this is just right. If you need to rotate, so if you need to rotate the face, when you do free transform, so when you're changing the size, if you go to the corner here, you can also rotate. So if you wanted to have it like, that's almost kind of sad if I rotate it like that. Like he just looks kind of, you know, upset that he's about to be eaten. But that would work. So at this point, when you're happy with it, what I want you to do is just go to File, and then you're going to save this as a PSD. So I know I've told you in the past, save as a JPG or PNG or whatever. I'm going to have you save it as a PSD because I want to see your layers. So a PSD is a Photoshop file. It's kind of the default Photoshop file that will allow you to keep working with the layers. So it works really great. You can even jump from Photopea to Photoshop because they both use the same file type. And it just allows you to edit the layers again if you want to. If you upload the PSD to classwork in Google Classroom to that assignment, when I click on it, I should be able to see it. If you can't see it, then there might be some issues with that. So it's been downloaded. If I click open here, I'll show you what happens. Maybe. Okay, so I just clicked on it and I have Photoshop downloaded. It's going to automatically open in Photoshop because it's a Photoshop file. So if you try to open it in your Photos file, it's probably not going to show up because it is a Photoshop file and not an image file. So just be aware of that. If you're trying to send it to somebody, make sure you save it as a PNG or a JPG. JPG is the most common option. When you're done with this, you just upload it to Google Classroom. This is our first Intro to Design assignment. I hope you enjoy it. If you have any questions whatsoever, feel free to ask.